The forbidden topic. The space station floated quietly in the dark sky above a blue planet. Inside, machines hummed, lights blinked, and cold air moved through long metal halls. Jake was the only human on the station. He walked carefully through the alien hallways. His boots made a soft sound on the silver floor. Everything around him looked strange. The walls were smooth like glass, and the lights were soft and blue. It was nothing like Earth. He stopped in front of a door that opened with a quiet hiss. Inside, a tall alien woman waited. Her name was Sira. She had deep silver eyes, skin that shimmered like stone, and long fingers that never shook. Her face showed no emotion. Not ever. "You're late," she said in a calm voice. Jake smiled. "Sorry, I got lost again. This place is like a maze." Sira looked at him for a moment, then turned around. "Follow me. Today we study muscle reactions." She didn't wait. She walked ahead, silent and straight, like a soldier. Jake followed, carrying a small device. He looked around the lab, clean, cold, and empty, just like always. He had been here for 3 weeks now, part of a research exchange between Earth and the Therani, Sira's people. They were smart, very smart, but also very cold. They didn't laugh. They didn't smile. And they never touched. Most strange of all, they never talked about reproduction. As the day passed, Sira tested Jake's body for strength and speed. She asked questions, wrote notes, and kept her face blank. But something happened at lunch. Jake sat at the table, eating a simple meal. Sira stood across from him, watching. He took out a small screen and played a video to pass the time. It was an old Earth video, about human families, children, and love. Sira's eyes locked onto the screen. "What is this?" she asked. Jake looked up. "Just an old documentary. From Earth, about how humans grow up. Families, babies, that kind of thing." Sira's eyes narrowed. "Babies?" Jake nodded. "Yeah. Reproduction. You know, how life continues." Sira reached out and snatched the screen from his hands. "Hey," Jake said, surprised. She didn't hear him. Her eyes were wide now. The video showed a baby being born. It was loud, messy, and emotional. The mother was crying. The father was holding her hand. Sira's hands began to shake. She quickly shut off the screen. "You must not show this again," she said in a low voice. Jake blinked. "Why not? It's just human biology." "It is not allowed," she said firmly. "Therani law forbids contact with this topic." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Wait, you guys don't talk about reproduction at all." Sira didn't answer. She turned away, hiding her face. Later that night, Sira sat alone in her room. The lights were low. Her silver eyes stared at the wall. But in her mind, she saw that human video again. She saw the way the man held the woman's hand, the way they touched, the way they cried. It made no sense. But it stirred something inside her chest, something she had never felt before. She walked to her console and opened the file. The warning light blinked. "Access forbidden." She overrode it. The video played again. This time, she watched closely. When the baby cried for the first time, Sira felt something strange. Her fingers touched her own chest. Her skin was warm. What was this feeling? Why did the humans not fear it? Why did the elders say it was dangerous? The next morning, Sira met Jake in the lab again. But this time, she didn't speak much. She kept looking at his hands, his eyes, his chest rising and falling as he breathed. Jake noticed. "You okay?" he asked. Sira nodded, but her face was different. Not cold, not strict, just confused. She suddenly asked, "Why do humans touch so much?" Jake tilted his head. "It's normal for us. Touch is how we show care. It makes us feel safe." Sira didn't reply. She looked down at her own hand. "Do you feel different when someone touches you?" she asked, voice low. Jake smiled a little. "Yeah, especially if it's someone you like." Sarah froze. Her chest felt warm again. That night, she wrote in her private journal, "They warned us not to ask questions about human reproduction. They said it would change us. They were right. I feel something. I want to know more. I want to feel it for myself." Her curiosity wakes up. The lights in her room were dim, glowing soft blue. Outside her window, stars floated like tiny fireflies in the black sky. Everything was silent. But inside Sarah, nothing was silent anymore. Her mind was loud. Her heart, if she could call it that, beat with a rhythm she had never known. The human video still echoed in her thoughts. That small human baby, red and crying. The woman holding it with tears in her eyes. The man's arms wrapped around both of them. That thing humans called family. She whispered the word softly. Family. It tasted strange on her tongue. Strange, but not unpleasant. She sat down on the cold floor, legs crossed. Her long fingers moved across her datapad. The file Jake had shown her was now blocked. Tharini security had detected the breach, but Sarah had already saved it. She pressed play. This time, she watched everything. The next morning, Sarah did not meet Jake in the lab. She stayed in her room, lying on her back, staring at the ceiling. "What is this feeling?" she asked herself. It was not pain. It was not fear. It was not logic. She thought of Jake's hands, the way he smiled, the way his voice changed when he spoke about Earth. Why did she want to see him again? Why did her body grow warm at the thought? Later that day, she walked quietly into Jake's lab. He was working, head down, building a small energy reader. His short brown hair was messy. His jacket was half off. His music player played soft Earth songs in the background, something about love and stars. He looked up and smiled. "Hey, Sarah, feeling better?" She nodded slowly. "I needed time to think." Jake sat back in his chair. "Fair. You looked kinda shaken yesterday." Sarah hesitated. "I want to ask you something." "Sure." She moved closer, too close. Jake noticed. "Why do humans cry when babies are born?" Jake blinked. "Wow, that's a deep question." Sarah tilted her head. "Please, tell me." Jake set down his tool. He looked at her, serious now. "Because it's a powerful moment," he said. "It's pain, joy, fear, and love, all at once. A new life is starting. And the people who made it, they feel everything at the same time." Sarah's eyes softened. "You made life." Jake chuckled. "Well, humans do. Not me, personally. But yeah." Sarah took a deep breath. "I want to understand more. I want to study this." Jake nodded. "Okay, I can show you more documentaries." She leaned forward. "No, I don't want videos. I want to feel it. I want to do what humans do. The steps, the process." Jake's eyes widened slightly. "Wait, you want to feel human connection? Like the relationship stuff?" She nodded, her voice soft. "Yes." That night, Sarah sat at her desk, writing notes. Hypothesis: human emotional response is linked to skin contact and shared experience. Test subject: human male. Name: Jake Parker. Objective: understand physical and emotional connection through imitation. She stared at the final sentence. She deleted the word imitation and wrote, "Objective: understand what it means to belong." The next morning, Sarah met Jake in the garden sector, a place with plants, light, and air that felt alive. It was Jake's favorite spot. He smiled when he saw her. "Whoa, you're glowing today." "I do not glow," she replied, but her voice was soft, almost playful. Jake laughed. Okay, what's up?" "I want to begin an experiment," she said. Jake raised an eyebrow. "On what?" "On us." He froze. Wait. What? Sira stepped closer. I want you to help me understand human reproduction, not just the body, the emotions, the connection. I want to experience it. Slowly, step by step, like your people do. Jake stared at her. You sure? I mean, this could get weird. Sira said nothing. Instead, she reached out, slowly, nervously, and touched his hand. Her fingers trembled. Jake didn't pull away. For a long moment, they stood there, quiet, still, connected. Later, in her private journal, Sira wrote, "Today I touched him, just his hand. But it felt like lightning. The air changed, my body changed. They said contact with a human would destroy me. But it didn't. It made me curious. It made me feel alive." She stopped writing. She looked in the mirror, and for the first time in her life, she smiled. The touch. The artificial sun in the garden sector cast a golden light across the leaves. The air smelled like Earth's spring, sweet, green, and alive. Jake sat on a bench, reading something on his screen, but his eyes kept drifting to the path. He was waiting. And then, she appeared. Sira walked slowly, her long coat swaying behind her. Her silver skin shimmered in the soft light. She looked different today. Not in clothes or shape, but in presence. Something had changed. She wasn't just walking to meet a research partner. She was walking toward him. Jake stood up. You came. I said I would, Sira replied calmly. He scratched the back of his neck, unsure how to start. So, where do we begin with this connection experiment? Sira stepped closer and sat beside him. Not across. Not at a distance. Beside. She looked at her hands, then at his. I read about the first step, she said. Jake looked at her, curious. And what is it? She turned her hand slowly, palm up. Touch. For a moment, neither of them moved. The sounds of the garden, wind, soft buzzing, distant water, became louder in the silence. Jake slowly reached out. His hand hovered above hers. You sure about this? He asked. I want to know what it feels like, she whispered. I want to understand why it matters. Their fingers touched. It was small, just skin against skin. But Sira gasped. Not from pain, not from fear, from shock. Her nerves lit up like stars. Her heart beat faster. Her mind, usually cold and clear, became full of noise. Her breath hitched. She didn't pull away. Jake looked at her, concerned. Are you okay? She nodded, but her eyes were wide. That was more than I expected. Jake smiled gently. Human touch is powerful. Sira looked at his hand, then up at his face. Why does something so small feel so big? Jake chuckled. That's love. Or maybe the start of it. Later, they walked together along the garden path. Sira kept looking at the plants, but her thoughts were on Jake's hand. Her own hand still tingled from the touch. She remembered every detail, the warmth, the pressure, the calm. I've been alive for over 70 cycles, she said, but I've never felt anything like that. Jake looked at her with soft eyes. You've never touched anyone before. Thorani don't touch unless for survival. Touching is seen as weakness. Jake shook his head. No, it's strength. It means trust. She stopped walking. I trust you, she said quietly. Jake stopped too. He didn't speak for a moment. Then he said, then maybe we're ready for step 2. Sira tilted her head. What is step 2? Jake laughed nervously. Talking. Real talking. Not just data and reports. We share who we are. They sat under a glowing tree. Sira listened as Jake talked about Earth, his family, his dog, the oceans, music, food, childhood, things she had no experience with. But she didn't look bored. She looked fascinated. Then she spoke. I was created in a lab, not born. My DNA was selected to make me strong, smart, and loyal to Therini law. I was never hugged, never kissed, never called a name with kindness. Jake's eyes softened. That sounds lonely. It was normal for us. Until you came. She looked at him. Now I wonder what I've been missing. A sudden tremor shook the station. The ground beneath them tilted. Alarms blared in the distance. Jake stood up quickly. What was that? System malfunction, Sira said, tapping her wrist device. A power unit is failing in the lower sector. Jake didn't wait. He started running. Sira, that's near the coolant pipes. If they break, this place will freeze over in minutes. She followed him, fast and focused. But deep inside, fear grew. Not fear of death, fear of losing him. They reached the damaged sector. Smoke filled the hallway. Sparks flew. The floor under them cracked loudly. Jake jumped forward and grabbed a control panel. I can fix it, but I need time. Suddenly, the floor broke under his feet. He slipped. Sira shouted, Jake. He hung onto the edge. One wrong move and he would fall into the freezing chamber below. Sira dropped to her knees and grabbed his arms. Her skin touched his again. But this time, it was full body. Real, desperate contact. Her strength pulled him up. They fell together onto the floor, breathing hard. Jake looked at her, and she looked at him, both still shaking, still holding each other. I thought I would lose you, she said, voice cracked. Jake touched her cheek. You didn't. Later, in her room, Sira stood in front of the mirror. She lifted her shirt slightly and saw a bruise where the floor had hit her. It would heal. But something else wouldn't go away. She pressed her hand to her chest. It was beating again. Strong. Fast. Warm. She picked up her journal and wrote, Today I touched him. Fully. I held him. I saved him. I felt fear and power at the same time. My body shakes when I remember it. They said touching humans would break me. But I think it's fixing me. I'm no longer just curious. I'm changing. The experiment. The next morning, the station lights flickered on like any other day. But for Sira, everything felt different. Her steps were slower. Her chest was warm. Her mind, usually full of clean facts and sharp focus, now held soft shapes, confusing thoughts, and one name that echoed again and again, Jake. She kept seeing his eyes when he almost fell. She kept feeling his touch when she pulled him close. That moment in the hallway had changed everything. Not just her body. Not just her rules. Her purpose. She walked into the lab where Jake was already working. His back was turned, and music was softly playing. This time, it was a romantic earth tune, slow, gentle, and full of longing. She stood in the doorway for a moment, watching him. He was just human. Soft, small compared to her, but he had saved her mind from emptiness. He had given her something the Therini never could. Emotion. He turned around and smiled. Morning, Sira. She stepped inside. Jake, I have a request. He looked curious. Shoot. I want to begin a new experiment, she said. Jake raised an eyebrow. Another one. This one is personal, emotional, based on human relationship patterns. Jake's eyes narrowed, half serious. Are you asking me to pretend date you? She blinked. Yes. Jake stared, then laughed. You're serious. Deadly. He laughed harder. That's the most romantic way anyone's ever asked me out. Sira tilted her head. Did I do it wrong? No, Jake said, shaking his head, still smiling. It's perfect. What do we do in this experiment? Sira took out a small notepad. First, emotional connection. We share memories, stories, thoughts. Second, physical closeness, touching, sitting near, eye contact. Third, she paused. Jake smirked. Third is the scary part. She nodded. Romantic simulation. I want to know what it feels like. But only if you agree. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, let's do it. For science. Day 1 of the experiment. They sat in the garden again. No lab coats. No data pads. Just themselves. Jake told her about his first heartbreak. How he fell for someone who never really cared. How he cried alone on a rooftop back on Earth. Sarah listened, wide-eyed. That sounds painful. It was, Jake said. But it made me stronger. She touched his hand again. He didn't pull away. Data entry. Human emotional history includes intense sadness. This sadness creates depth, not weakness. My chest felt tight when he spoke. I think I cared. Day 3 of the experiment. Jake brought her food from Earth storage. Chocolate. She tasted it. Her eyes went wide. This is wrong, she said, chewing slowly. But also perfect. Jake laughed. Welcome to cravings. They sat side by side, sharing chocolate, laughing for the first time. Sarah laughed, a real laugh. She covered her mouth, shocked. I have never made that sound before. It's a good one, Jake said. You should keep it. Day 5 of the experiment. They danced. It wasn't planned. A song came on, and Jake stood up, holding out his hand. Want to try something new? She hesitated, then took it. They moved slowly, unsure, laughing at first. But then, something changed. The room faded. The music grew louder. The air between them warmed. Sarah rested her head on his shoulder. She closed her eyes. And for the first time in her life, she felt safe. Data entry. When close to Jake, my thoughts become quiet. My breathing slows. This is not just a reaction. This is desire. I no longer want to study him. I want to stay near him. Day 7 of the experiment. Sarah walked into the lab with a strange look on her face. Jake was sitting at the desk, fixing a broken scanner. She didn't speak. She just walked up and sat on the edge of the desk, right in front of him. Jake, she said. He looked up. Something is wrong with the experiment, she said. He raised an eyebrow. What's wrong? She leaned in. Her voice was quiet. It doesn't feel like a test anymore. I don't want data. I want you. Jake stood up, slowly. Sarah, what are you saying? She looked into his eyes. Her silver ones were shining with something new. Something soft. Something human. I think I've been broken in the best way, she said. I'm not studying human love anymore. I'm falling into it. They didn't kiss. Not yet. But Jake reached out and held her face gently. His thumb brushed her cheek. Sarah leaned into the touch. They stood there for a long time, saying nothing. Because sometimes silence is louder than words. But far away, in the high chamber of the Thereni elders, a report was received. Unauthorized contact. Unauthorized emotional development. The council leader frowned. She's infected, he said coldly. End it, before it spreads. The council's warning. The cold metal doors opened with a heavy sound. Sarah stepped inside. The room was dark. The air was dry. 7 tall figures stood in a half circle, wearing long black robes that shimmered like ice. This was the high chamber of the Thereni Council. No one came here unless summoned. No one left unchanged. She walked to the center of the room, heart steady but unsure. One of the elders stepped forward. His voice was like a frozen wind. Do you know why you are here, Sarah? She raised her chin. Because of my research. No, the elder said. Because of your weakness. She said nothing. Another elder spoke. You were assigned to observe the human, not to touch him, not to laugh with him, not to feel. They all spoke now, one after another, their voices sharp and cold. You have shared meals with him. You have held him. You have smiled. You have changed. Sarah's fingers curled into fists at her sides. I changed because I chose to, she said. One of the council members hissed. Emotions are a disease, Sira. You were created to rise above them. Syra's eyes narrowed. Then why do I feel more alive than I ever have? Silence. Heavy. Cold. Another elder stepped forward. He touched a control panel, and a hologram appeared in the air. It showed her and Jake dancing under the artificial tree, then holding hands, then her resting her head on his shoulder. Sarah didn't look away. The elder's voice was sharp. This is not science. This is infection. You have allowed human touch to poison you. I let it heal me, she replied. A loud sound echoed through the chamber. A sharp metallic boom. The leader of the council took a step forward. His robe swept the floor. You will end this now, or you will be stripped of your title. You will lose your lab, your rights, everything. Sarah stood tall, and Jake. He will be sent away, his memory erased. You will never see him again. Her chest burned. They wanted her to erase him, to pretend none of it had ever happened, to go back to the cold. She walked out of the chamber in silence. No one followed her. The doors closed behind her like a prison gate. Jake was waiting in the garden sector. He stood by the same tree where they had danced. When he saw her, he smiled, but her face didn't smile back. Sira, he asked, stepping forward. She didn't speak. He touched her arm gently. What happened? She looked up at him, eyes cold and full of pain. They know. Jake's heart sank. The council. She nodded. They watched us. They recorded everything. They said I broke the law. Jake frowned. What will they do? They want to erase you, she said. From the station. From me. Jake stepped back, shocked. They can do that. She nodded again. Then whispered, unless I let you go willingly. The words hit like a knife. Jake's voice was low. Is that what you're going to do? Sarah didn't answer right away. Her hand reached up and touched his face. She looked at him for a long time. You make me feel alive, she said. But if I keep you, I may lose everything else. Jake swallowed hard. Then I won't ask you to choose me. She shook her head. But you don't understand. You're not just part of my heart now. You are my heart. Jake blinked fast. Then run away with me. She looked around. The station walls suddenly felt smaller, colder. She had lived here her entire life. Trained here, served here. But it was never her home. Not really. Not until he came. That night, Sarah stood alone in her lab. She looked at her machines, her charts, her test tubes. All of it was quiet. All of it empty. On her screen, Jake's file blinked. It was set for deletion. All she had to do was press one button. Erase him. Forget the touch. Forget the warmth. Forget the laughter. She stared at the button. Then she smashed the screen with her fist. Glass shattered. Blood dripped from her hand. She didn't care. Because she had made her choice. She walked to the communication panel and opened a secret channel. Jake, she whispered, meet me at the launch bay. We leave at midnight. Meanwhile, deep in the council chamber, they're planning escape, a voice said. The leader nodded. Then activate the hunters. They will not leave this station alive. Escape from the cold. The station was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes your skin crawl. Jake stood alone in the launch bay, the giant airlock behind him hissing softly with pressure. He held a small pack, bare essentials, rations, tools, and one picture of Earth. He kept looking at the time. Midnight was near. Where was she? Then, footsteps. Fast, light, sharp. He turned, and there she was. Sira, wrapped in a dark cloak, eyes glowing with fire. You made it, he whispered, relief filling his chest. But her face was serious. They know. Jake's smile faded. How much do they know? They activated the hunters. Jake stiffened. Then we have to move. Now. 20 floors above, alarms started to buzz. Not loud. Not for the public. Just soft pulses, only heard by the elite guards of the Thorini Hunt Division. They weren't normal soldiers. They were made to track and kill. Without mercy. Without sound. Back in the launch bay, Syrah pulled Jake behind a wall as red lights blinked in the distance. They'd locked the main exits, she said, but I know a back path through the lower Kula ducts. Jake nodded. Lead the way. They moved fast through narrow tunnels. The walls were freezing. Steam hissed from broken vents. One slip, one fall, and the temperature could drop enough to freeze their blood in seconds. Syrah led him like a ghost. Quick, graceful, focused. But Jake noticed something. She was breathing harder than usual. Sweating. He whispered, "Are you okay?" "I'm trying to hide my body heat," she replied. "The hunters can trace temperature." Jake looked at her with worry. "We're risking everything." She stopped suddenly and turned. "I'm not risking it," she said. "I'm choosing it." He held her hand tightly. "Then let's keep choosing it. Together." But they weren't alone. Behind them, 2 Thorini hunters dropped silently from the ceiling. Their bodies were covered in dark armor, and their hands held long, curved weapons that vibrated with low energy pulses. They didn't speak. They only moved. Fast. Deadly. Jake and Syrah ran. They turned corners, jumped over pipes, crawled through vents. The hunters followed like shadows. Then, Jake slipped. His boot caught a loose cable. He hit the ground hard, pain shooting through his shoulder. One of the hunters lunged forward. Syrah screamed and turned around. She slammed her arm into a control panel beside her, releasing a wall of steam between them and the hunters. She dragged Jake up. "No time," she shouted. He groaned in pain but ran beside her. They'd reached the hidden bay, a small emergency launch pod meant for quick evacuations. It wasn't built for long travel, but it could take them away from here. Syrah opened the hatch and pushed Jake inside. She climbed in after him and locked the door. Outside, the hunters arrived. They started cutting through the door with hot blades. Syrah grabbed the pilot controls. "Strap in," she shouted. Jake did. The pod roared to life. Lights flashed red. Engines screamed. The station's AI voice echoed. "Unauthorized launch. Shut down in 10, 9. Syrah slammed her palm on the override key. 8, 7. The door behind them glowed red with heat. 6, 5. A blade pierced the metal. 4, 3. Jake reached for her hand. 2, 1. The pod launched. The station fell behind them. So did the danger. So did the cold. For now, inside the pod, everything shook. They spun through space, away from the Thorini station, toward nothingness. Just black sky and distant stars. Jake unbuckled and reached for Syrah. She was sitting still, breathing hard. She had bruises on her arms, blood on her cheek. Her hands were shaking. He kneeled in front of her. "We made it," he whispered. She looked at him, her eyes full of pain and something deeper, loss. "I left everything behind," she said. Jake gently touched her cheek. "Not everything." Tears filled her eyes. "I thought I wasn't supposed to cry," she said, "but now I can't stop." Jake wrapped his arms around her. And for the first time, she let herself fall. Fall into his chest. Fall into warmth. Fall into being held, not as a soldier, not as a scientist, but as a woman who wanted to be loved. Hours later, the pod landed on a quiet green moon near a human colony. The doors opened. Jake helped her step outside. Syrah looked around. The sky was open. The air was warm. No metal walls. No cold laws. Just wind and freedom. That night, they sat near a fire built by human settlers. Sarah looked up at the stars. She held Jake's hand. "I'm not a scientist anymore," she said. Jake smiled. "Then what are you?" She looked at him. And for the first time, she answered without fear. "I'm yours, but far, far away." A signal blinked in the darkness of space. A message. Subject escaped. Human infected. Emotion spreading. Prepare retaliation. Her choice. The morning light was soft and golden. A gentle wind moved through the trees of the small Earth colony on the green moon. Birds, imported from Earth, sang their morning songs. Children ran in the distance. Laughter floated through the air. Sarah stood alone near the edge of a cliff, staring at the rising sun. She had never seen a sunrise before. On the Thereni station, there were no windows, no natural light, only cold walls and artificial suns. But here, this light touched her skin like a promise. Behind her, Jake watched quietly. He held 2 mugs of hot tea. One for him, one for her. He didn't say anything. He just stood there, waiting. He had learned to wait. Because sometimes, silence is love too. Sarah finally turned. She looked tired, but peaceful. She took the tea from him, holding it with both hands. "This world is so alive," she said, "and so soft." Jake smiled. "You're starting to sound human." She looked at him. "I don't know what I am anymore." They walked back to the small home the settlers had given them. It was simple. 1 room, 1 bed, a real window. Sarah touched the wooden wall as they walked in. It felt warm under her fingers, not like steel. She sat down near the fire. "I've been thinking," she said, "about everything." Jake nodded. "Me too. I don't know if I can ever go back." "You don't have to," Jake said gently. "But my people," she looked down, "they'll come. I feel it. They'll try to take me, or kill me, or worse, erase me." Jake moved closer. "Then we fight." Sarah blinked. "You would fight the Thereni. For me." Jake touched her face. "I'd fight the whole galaxy for you." That night, a ship appeared in the sky. Silent, dark, deadly. It hovered above the colony for just a moment. Then a message came through. "Sarah, daughter of Thereni, return now, or we take the human." Jake stepped forward, face hard. "Let them try." But Sarah raised her hand. She looked calm. "I'll go." Jake turned to her, shocked. "What? No, you don't have to." She touched his lips. "Yes, I do, but not forever." She walked outside, standing beneath the stars. She pressed her wrist communicator. "Open channel." A voice answered. "We are listening." "I will come," Sarah said, "but not as your tool, not as your creation." There was silence. Then the voice returned, sharp and cold. "Then what are you?" Sarah looked up at the stars. "I am what you fear the most. A Thereni who chose to feel. A Thereni who loved a human." Another voice spoke. "You are broken." "No," she said. "I am finally whole." The ship landed. Dark figures stepped out, but Sarah didn't run. She walked to them with fire in her eyes. Jake ran to her side. He held her hand. One of the soldiers raised a weapon. But Sarah spoke before he could act. "If you take him, I will scream," she said. "I will scream across every frequency in the galaxy. I will tell every race what you fear, that love can grow even in frozen hearts." The soldiers stopped. The leader of the group stepped forward. He removed his helmet. An older Thereni with deep scars and tired eyes. He looked at her for a long time. Then he said quietly, "You chose him." "I did. And would you die for him?" Sarah turned to Jake, then back to the leader. "No," she said. "I would live for him." There was silence. Then, slowly, the leader nodded. "Then your choice is made." He turned to his soldiers. "Leave them. But I said leave them. One by one, the soldiers returned to the ship. It lifted off and vanished into the stars. Sarah collapsed to her knees, shaking. Jake ran to her. You did it, he said. We did it, she whispered. He held her. Tight. Safe. Home. 3 months later. The colony grew. Sarah became a teacher. She showed humans what she knew about science and what she learned about love. She laughed more, smiled more, touched more, and every night she and Jake sat on the same hill, under the same stars. One evening, as the wind danced and the sky glowed orange, Jake pulled something from his pocket, a small silver ring. Sarah looked at it, confused. What is this? Jake smiled. A human tradition, he said. He got down on one knee. Will you be mine? Sarah looked at him, eyes full of tears. I already am. Final journal entry. From Sarah's private log. They warned me about human reproduction. They warned me about feelings, about soft touches, about love. They told me it would ruin me, but it didn't. It saved me. I am not for any. Not anymore. I am not human either. I am something new. I am proof that love changes everything. Even in the coldest places, something warm can grow. And once it begins, nothing can stop it.